Who is the world champion of Smash Bros? I think there are three answers you could reasonably have to this question, so let's break it down. The first answer is no one. The Smash Bros competitive scene is famously grassroots. Unlike other sports like football and American football, games like chess, esports like Valorant and Rocket League, and even fighting games like Street Fighter and Tekken, there is no official circuit for Smash. This is part of the reason why rankings and stats are a bigger deal in Smash than in other competitive scenes. Rather than one keystone event, the best player has to be determined piecemeal by analyzing everyone's performances at various events throughout the season. Now, both a grassroots circuit and a community circuit partnered with Nintendo have been attempted in the past. However, neither was fully brought to fruition. And with no championship, we can't have a champion. Thus, there is no world champion of Smash Bros. The second answer is MKLeo. Long considered the greatest of all time in Ultimate, one of Leo's many achievements in his lauded career is this. First place at the Smash World Tour 2021 Ultimate Championship, the only worldwide circuit in Ult's history to have been completed. Now, as far as circuits go, SWT is a weird case. Coming out of quarantine, qualifiers for SWT were determined not from community-stable events, but from a series of region-locked online tournaments that then determined invites to the in-person invitationals, the top performers at which were invited to the finale event at the end of the year. But despite the wonky online alt-dependence qualification system, the 2021 Smash World Tour was a prestigious and high-stakes event. Since its successor, the Smash World Tour 2022 Championship, was never held due to licensing issues, I think it'd be fair to say that the 2021 event's winner, MKLeo, remains world champion by default. And the third answer is the silliest and most convoluted, and by far the least reasonable of all. It is also my favorite answer, because no other quite captures the deep and absurd history of this deep and absurd game. This is the unofficial Smash Ultimate World Championships. A little background here. The unofficial World Championship concept originates in football. Back in 2002, football statisticians James Allnut, Paul Crankshaw, Justine Nygaard, and Roberto DiMaggio heard an anecdote that fans of the Scotland men's national football team, after their team had beaten the FIFA champion England team back in 1967, had claimed their team as the unofficial world champions due to their victory over the title holders. These guys thought that was a fun concept, a world champion title that transfers boxing style whenever a team loses a match. So they did the work to trace back the entire history of this made-up title, all the way back to the first international football match in 1872. From there, the concept was popularized in a 442 magazine article by Paul Brown, who also later wrote a book about the championship and made a website to track all future changes. The current title holder, by the way, is the Côte d'Ivoire. The concept of the unofficial World Championship is inherently pretty silly. To start with, the teams by and large have no idea what it is. There's no consideration on the part of coaches or players of the World Championship title, and thus, no concerted effort to win or defend it. The only people who will cheer, boo, or even care at all about a title change are those whose love for the sport overlaps with a passion for tracking niche statistical occurrences. But for those people, it's a fun thing to track, to watch titles change hands and to give some stakes to what may otherwise be a relatively incidental game. The unofficial World Championship has been adapted and tracked by nerdy fans of a number of other competitive games in esports, including League, StarCraft, and Valorant, but I think the format fits particularly well with Smash. First, there are a lot of events. Not as many as there are football matches played per year, of course, but more than enough to see the title potentially change hands more than a dozen times a year. Second, Smash is a volatile game. Outside of a handful of outliers, the top players all have good odds of beating each other, and it's likely that many different competitors will hold the championship over its lifetime. And lastly, due to the previously established lack of any official world champion, tracking the title in Alt feels, at least to me, a bit more meaningful. Although we might not have a global championship in any formal capacity, nerdy spectators can at least follow the Smash community's time-honored tradition of figuring something out ourselves. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is the history of the unofficial Smash Ultimate World Championship. To start with, I'm referencing a version of the World Championship assembled by Wikipedia user Gregorian, which I'll have linked in the description below. The rules are as follows. The title begins with the winner of Ultimate's first premier tournament, which happens to be Genesis 6. Fittingly then, our first world champion is MKLeo. The title will only be in play at subsequent major tournaments, to head off the possibility of it getting stuck in an isolated region for too long. The title will be transferable at most once per tournament, so that it doesn't just travel up the loser's bracket until it's a who won the last major title and not an unofficial world champion title. And lastly, the title will be transferred not to the player who defeats the current title holder in winner's side bracket, but the player who eliminates them from the event in loser's side. This rule is more for practical reasons. If we go just by first bracket loss, the title will reach a dead end at Project M Miyoshi Main Burnt Socks, who won the title at Glitch 7 back in 2019 and then decided to never enter a Smash Ultimate Major again. We begin, as most Smash stories do, with MKLeo, the first unofficial world champion after defeating Void through Loser's Bracket to win Genesis 6. Though his expertly piloted character lineup of Ike and Lucina have brought him to the top of the early alt meta, he does not have long to rest on his laurels. Within 3 weeks, he and many of NA's other top players are bound to Detroit, Michigan for Frostbite 2019. Here, for the first time in a ranked alt bracket, MKLeo will face off against a player who will be his strongest contemporary and greatest rival throughout the rest of the game's history, Tweak. In Winners Finals, the first bracket game ever played by these two in alt is in the Donkey Kong Ike matchup. This might sound baffling to modern fans, but at the time it was not unreasonable. Tweak's DK was Leo's kryptonite in the prior game, Smash for Wii U, so trying it here makes sense. Tweak quickly wises up, however, after losing Game 1. He switches to Wario, and after one game to adjust, locks in. Ironically, given how the rest of their set history will unfold, Tweak wins his first set against MKLeo in Ultimate with a reverse 3-0. Now remember, we're using elimination rules. Though MKLeo has been defeated, he still holds the championship title. It's only after MKLeo and Tweak play for a second time, in Grand Finals of Frostbite 2019, that the title is conferred. Tweak 3-0s Leo's Lucina with Wario, winning both the tournament and the honor of being Ultimate's second unofficial world champion. This is his first time holding the title, and, as I must regretfully inform any Tweak fans in the audience, it will also be his last. Okay, so this next section involves a player who's currently banned from attending many events. This will be the only brief mention of this or any other banned individual, but if you'd like to avoid it, please skip to the timestamp on screen. Though Tweak unfortunately misses out on the first Smash Ultimate Summit, he's back in action at Collision 2019 3 weeks later. Character uncertainty is a defining part of Tweak's early Ultimate career, and Collision 2019 might be its peak. He plays 4 characters over the course of Bracket, though he sticks primarily to Ridley and Young Link in Winner's Side until he's defeated by Palutena main Frozen. In Losers, he's immediately faced with another Palutena main, Nairo, who in this period was the strongest Palu player in the world. Tweak gives both his Wolf and his Wario, which had previously defeated Nairo, a shot, but in the end, his tenure as unofficial world champion comes to an end after just 21 days, and Nairo takes the title. Nairo holds the championship for about a month until 2GG Prime Saga in mid-April. Here, he's upset by Shuton in Winner's Side Bracket, and though he makes the run to lose his semis, he's stopped short by Foxbane Light. In Game 1, he tries to use his Pocket Ganondorf and repeat his legendary victory over Light at Collision the month before, but it falls short, and both his Palu and Cloud are summarily defeated as Light is crowned Ultimate's 4th unofficial world champion. Today, Light is famous for being one of the strongest and most consistent players in North America, and a contender for the best in the USA. In early alt, though, Light was much more inconsistent, with a number of both impressive highs and harsh lows. Though he's made top 4 at his last 2 majors in a row, his luck is about to run out. The week after Prime Saga, at Pound 2019 in Laurel, Maryland, Light is upset in round 2 pools by Wolfbrain Daybreak. Though he starts to mount a loser's run, he's cut short by Mario main Dark Wizzy, and exits the tournament at 17th place, making Dark Wizzy the new unofficial world champion. This is an important moment in the history of the unofficial Smash World Championship. Every previous title holder is a player who will be ranked top 10 on the upcoming PGRU V1. In other words, they've all been some of the strongest players in the entire game. Dark Wizzy, then, is the first player not to be ranked in the upcoming top 10, or indeed the top 30. Come July, the PGRU V1 will see him ranked as the 31st best player in the world. This is relevant to us because under our rules, the World Championship title transfers via elimination, not first defeat. While top 10 players can certainly get upset, they aren't usually eliminated in bracket by players outside of the game's highest echelon. With players towards the lower end of the top 50, though, this becomes more and more likely. Since these players are more likely to lose earlier in bracket, they'll play more sets with elimination on the line, and thus be less likely overall to transfer the title back up to a top player upon their final defeat. Really, there are 2 main options for a lower ranked player to transfer their title to a much higher ranked one. Either they make a Cinderella run to a high placement, or a top player loses early in bracket and runs into them in losers. This is what happens to Dark Wizzy at MomoCon 2019. After losing to a Snake main in Winner's Side, Buzz, the famed king of New York, eliminates Dark Wizzy at 13th, bringing the World Championship title back to the PGR top 10. Again, the title holder attends back-to-back majors. A week later, DeBuzz makes a trek to Smash and Slash 5 in Wisconsin Dells, where after being upset by Rivers in Winner's Bracket, he finds himself in losers' quarters, facing down someone we're going to see a lot of later, Mars. Though Tweak was Leo's most storied rival in early Ultimate, Mars was the player who, in retrospect, seemed closest to challenging him for title of best in the world. His explosive playstyle, his willingness to experiment, and his electric presence as a competitor are all reasons why he's one of the most beloved figures in the community even to this day. Now though, Mars is still on the come up. Eventually Dabuz will sort of figure him out and push their set record heavily in his favor. That time is not here yet. Mars runs through all 3 of Dabuz's characters and eliminates him 3-0. Mars' next major is CEO 2019 down in Daytona Beach, Florida. CEO is an enormous event, with players from both Europe and Japan in attendance, and all the pomp and circumstance befitting of a super major. Mars, who always seems to thrive in front of a crowd, eats it up. Entering the top 8 through losers, Mars defeats 4 players in a row, and in grand finals, he comes closer than anyone else in the top 8 to defeating the tournament's eventual winner. But ultimately, the unofficial Smash World Championship sees its first repeat title holder. MKLeo holds the title once more. From here, the title changes hands quickly during the frantic tournament activity of the so-called Summer of Smash. At Smash Factor 8 in Mexico, Mars quickly reclaims his belt by winning the tournament over Leo. He subsequently surrenders the championship the next week at EVO 2019, the largest Smash tournament of all time, to the 3rd straight repeat world champion, Light. But the Fox Maid again can only hold on to the title for a week until it's snatched away, this time by fast-rising Mexican Game & Watch main Meister. The title change is slow from here, as Meister doesn't attend a major for another month and change. But when he finally does make it out to Main Stage 2019, the result is a total paradigm shift for the unofficial World Championship. Though Meister enters Main Stage as a respectable 11th seed, his winner's bracket is cut short in top 64 as he's upset by Pokemon trainer main Moxie. Unbeknownst to everyone involved, this single upset begins the most dangerous period yet for the unofficial championship, because Meister's loser's path is destined to be gatekept by T. T is, and will continue to be, a renowned player, a consistent top-level threat, and contender for one of the best in the world. But most pertinent for us, T is the first Japanese holder of the World Championship title. At the conclusion of Main Stage, when T is defeated for a second time by Light, he packs up his bags and flies back home over the Pacific, taking the World Championship title with him. Among every super region in the world, the Japanese Smash scene is by far the most volatile. Japanese depth players are largely considered to be the strongest in the world, and not without reason. During the second half of 2022, Protobanum, a contender for the best Japanese alt-player of all time, won 2 majors in North America, Double Down and Smash Ultimate Summit 5. Despite one of these events being an invitation with round-robin pools, Proto would drop only 2 sets in North America throughout this period, 1 to MKLeo at Double Down, and 1 to Light at Summit. In the same period, Protobanum would win 0 majors in Japan, and drop 14 sets, including losses to players like Takara, Sigma, Aim, and Chicken. Strong Japanese depth players, but just not on the same level as Light and Leo. Japan is, without a doubt, the hardest region in the world for a player to be consistent. Furthermore, Japan is full of strong but low attendance players that stats nerds traditionally refer to as hidden bosses, or affectionately as cryptids. Be it due to differences in tournament culture, the presence of a robust online ladder, or just the general population density of the country, there are tons of competitors in the scene strong enough to eliminate a top player from bracket who might only attend a handful of majors per year. On the 2023 end-of-year rankings, 4 of the 15 attendance cuts were Japanese, all players strong enough to be ranked top 150 in the world if they'd only gone to a few more events. This is the danger the unofficial World Championship title faces in Japan. If the belt transfers to a Japanese depth player, it might be lost beneath the waves of competitors for months or even years. There's little time to brace for impact. A week after returning from California, T attends Japanese major Umebura SP6, where he's upset in winner's top 64 by Yoshimane Ratsuku. T shapes up a little in losers bracket, defeating 4 opponents in a row, but is stopped in 9th place by Japanese ZSS main Chaco. This is overall promising. Chaco will be ranked number 26 in the world by the end of the season, based in part off his strong run to 3rd at this event. Remember though, Japan, hard to be consistent. At his next major, Chaco will place just 17th, losing to Daisy Main Umeki in winner's side and being eliminated by T. No, not that T, like the beverage. T, like the letter. T is a true anomaly. At the end of the season, he will be ranked number 15 in the world, the only solo Link main to ever make top 50, and, in my opinion, the only player to ever make Link look viable in Ultimate, if only for a brief window. Do keep in mind, this is not the last time a Link main will hold the unofficial World Championship title. For now though, T stewards the belt carefully to next month's Umebura SP7, where he mounts an impressive run to 4th place. Over the course of his bracket, T defeats staple Japanese threats like Niitono, Chaco, and Kameme, but loses semis is where it all falls apart. After losing to Palutena main Jagaimo in winner's top 128 and stealing their nerves, after defeating Leia, Shaky, Kameme, Kuro, and Shutone in the middle of a run that will finish only when he runs out of players to beat, Seminal Japanese prodigy Zachary will take Umebura SP7, and with it, the unofficial World Championship title. And Zachary's next event? 2GG Congo Saga in La Mirada, California. After a 2.5-month Japanese exchange trip, the World Champion belt will once more be up for grabs in NA. Though Congo Saga will feature season-defining performances from many players, Zachary is unfortunately not one of them. After ironically being upset by tea, again the letter, not the drink, in winner's side, Zachary will fall at 17th place to Light in the Fox matchup that will give him trouble again and again during his career. With that, the first full year of competitive Smash Ultimate has concluded. North America has officially reclaimed the unofficial World Championship, and Light has established himself as the only 3-time title holder. As we head into the new year, however, this will not remain the case for long. After a loss to T, the drink this time, in winner's side of Let's Make Big Moves 2022, Light will find himself facing Mars in the losers bracket. These two competitors, by far the strongest alt players to ever come out of New England, have had and will continue to have a storied matchup history, trading sets back and forth. Today, Mars comes out the victor, making himself the second player to win the title 3 times. This, however, is not good enough for Mars. This is a player who was ranked 5th in the world at the end of the prior ranking season, and that isn't enough for him either. The largest event of the year, Genesis 7, looms ahead, and Mars enters with a chip on his shoulder, both prepared and capable of performing a feat that may never be achieved again. Let me be frank. If you've watched this far in the video, you know what's about to happen. In a single jaw-dropping performance, Mars tears through his competition, only being brought to Game 5 a single time. As the event nears its end, he sits in winner's side grands, with MKLeo rising from losers as his opponent. Many have been in this position before, and fallen short before the #1 player in the world. But Leo is by far Mars' most studied opponent, across different characters, stages, contexts, and everything in between. Mars knows exactly what to do to defeat MKLeo, and he executes. In a 3-0 set, Mars becomes not only the second player to win Ultimate Singles at Genesis, but also the first holder in the unofficial World Championship history to defend their title. Throughout the next 4 years of the game's history, across dozens of title changes yet to come, Mars will remain the only world champion to defend their belt. Today, as the spotlights bathe the stage in appropriately red light, the God of War's victory is complete. 1 month later, at Frostbite 2020, Mars passes the champion title on to Zachary, who takes it for the second time to Japan. And before anyone can really do anything about this, the world ends. Due to a variety of logistical and socio-political factors, Japan is able to largely bring the pandemic under control more swiftly than the United States can. Thus, Zachary's last-minute title transfer serves as somewhat of a blessing in disguise, as the next eligible major, Kaguribi 3, comes nearly half a year before Riptide 2021, the next open bracket tournament to be held stateside. Still, not all of it is as it was before. The continued release of DLC characters over the pandemic has kickstarted a new era of Smash Ultimate, all of which is made abundantly clear when the newcomer hero main Akakiksu eliminates Zachary at 4th place to take the championship title. Though Akakiksu is a fast-rising star, he's also an unproven quantity. In the previous year, he's finished 65th at Sumabato SP15 after being eliminated by Yagami, a competitor who apparently plays Mega Man and whose Twitter profile only leaves me with more questions. For now though, Akakiksu holds steady, placing top 8 at his next major, Kaguribi 4. This time, the title is transferred to Bowser main Hero, another rising star coming out of quarantine. Hero will go on to establish himself as the best Bowser in the world, but this is still dangerous for the title. With such a large frame and such poor disadvantage, even Bowser's best matchups can be volatile. But at Maisuma Top number 6, the first in the Maisuma Top series to reach major status, Hero 2 holds steady, finishing in 3rd place to Proto Bantam. Late 2021, before the Japanese player base as a whole learns to fight Min-Min, is Proto Bantam's golden age. After winning his last 3 majors in a row, Proto enters Kaguri 5 as a confident first seed. Complications arise when Komei's Shulk takes the upset victory in winner's quarters, but Proto pushes through, making a run to 5th place and handing off the championship title to Shutone. NA watchers, we're back, because at the end of the year, Shutone is one of just 5 Japanese players invited to the Smash World Tour. If this were a story, and I were the one writing it, I would take the cliched approach here. MKLeo walking inexorably towards his world champion title would make the losers run and eliminate Shuton in the process, bringing the whole thing full circle by walking away from SWT with both titles. But though this isn't a story, and MKLeo doesn't eliminate Shuton, what winds up happening is, in some ways I think, equally beautiful. Clinching a spot through the last chance qualifier, young Rob player Zomba becomes the breakout star of this event, eliminating Shuton in the midst of a run to 4th that will go down as one of the most famous in Alt's history. Not only has the unofficial championship come back to North America, but it's a new top player who made it happen, a rising talent who cements that Alt really is entering the next era of the game. And really, Zomba's about as promising a talent as they come. Already at his next event, Glitch Infinite, he's poised to repeat Mars' feat and defend his unofficial championship title. He's in Winterside Grand Finals, and he 3-0'd his opponent previously this event, so how could he... Oh. Alright, well, congratulations to Cosmos, the new unofficial world champion. Cosmos definitely deserves it. He's been around since the start of the game, and though he hasn't been the most consistent player, his recent results are basically the strongest that they've ever... Oh, that's 33rd at Collision 2022. Well, congrats to Peebnut. Mega Man has been an underexplored character for basically the entirety of Alt's lifespan, and he definitely has the potential to... that's another 33rd at Pound 2022 to Subo. Well, Subo isn't exactly the most consistent player, but he's definitely a strong threat. He may be taking the title back to Japan, but his NA results are strong enough to land him in Area 51 of the PGRU at the end of the season, and he's been working on a Joker secondary to cover Olimar's bad matchups. Yeah, it's jovial, sorry. The unofficial World Championship is officially lost in the depths of Japan. I should clarify here, none of this is to disparage the players we're going to need to talk about. These are all strong and accomplished players who found success in the most competitive region in the world. This Snake player, Sidarezakura, has beaten players like Kome and Leia, and was even sponsored by the same team as Proto Banham. But if the strongest players in Japan can't always be consistent, then just imagine what it's like for the depth. At Mayasuma Top 8, Sidarezakura is eliminated by Yoshimane Floyd. Floyd is the first title holder not to be from the Kanto region, which contains Tokyo, the main population center of Japan. Floyd instead hails from Kansai, which is still the second biggest region in the country, but rather than travel out to events like Kagurabi 8, Floyd attends Kansai Regionals for 2 months, until at Mayasuma Top 9 he's eliminated by Lucas player Den Koda, known primarily as the TO for the Kyoto DSW series. So yes, discounting Wi-Fi brackets, this is to my knowledge the first tournament organizer to claim the unofficial World Championship title. In about a month and a half, the final title transfer of 2022 will take place, at Mayasuma Top 10, where Den Koda will be eliminated from bracket by Didimane Nanchan. As 2023 rolls around, the title transfers continue to slow. Nanchan attends Super Major Umebura SP9, where he places 97th and is eliminated by Kyon. And there's the second solo Link main to claim a World Champion title. Now, Kyon shows a lot of promise. At upcoming regional winner next 3, Kyon will earn a bronze medal placement among stiff competition, defeating Abadongo, Noi, and Shogun in the process. The only issue is that by that point, Kyon will have already attended Kagurabi 9 in February, where he'll be eliminated at 129th by Meta Knight player Udo. Udo is the first player I think I can confidently call the Cryptid. Back in Smash 4, he was a contender for the best Kirby in Japan. Now, as a Meta Knight main, he'd accumulate wins on Jogabu, Kome, Dio, and more over the course of his career. But like real Cryptids, Udo would only emerge sparingly. After Kagurabi 9, Udo wouldn't attend a single ranked event offline until Mayasuma Top 13 at the end of April. There, he would repeat his 97th place finish from Kagurabi 9 and pass the title on to, I kid you not, Kyon. Just to be clear, the only players throughout the unofficial title's history to be world champion more than once are MKLeo, Mars, Light, Zachary, and Kyon. During the first third of 2023, the only activity with the title was Kyon and Udo passing it back and forth like a football. It would be fairly reasonable by this point to assume that the unofficial World Championship had more or less run its course. Though it had started out as a novel title to track among top players, and even occasionally an indicator of an exceptionally strong performance or season, the belt was now circulating gradually among players the average spectator would generally only see in a Rosebloom tweet. If anything, the next title change, at Kagurabi 10, only cemented the matter. Kenmain nickname might just be about the most cryptic Japanese player you could imagine. Before Kagurabi 10, he placed above triple digits at a major only once. As of today, his Smash data page tracks fewer than 25 tournaments and just over 110 sets lifetime. I can't think of many people I'd have less faith in to make it far enough in bracket to transfer the title to a top player than nickname. But that's the thing about Japanese cryptids. They lurk in the shadows not because they don't wish to be seen, but because they're awaiting their time in the sun. Nickname's wait is long. It was a full 5 months before he attended another major tournament. But when Kagurabi 11 rolled around in October, he was ready. In winter semis of his pool, Nickname would defeat up-and-comer Bayonetta player Tamapi Daifuku, who would be ranked top 100 by the end of the year. And to win his pool, Nickname would defeat former unofficial world champion Subo, or the one who'd started the last year and a half of Japanese title possession in the first place. Nickname would lose his next 2 sets, but he'd brought the title far enough, as rising from the losers bracket after being upset by Meat Gunner Main Claw was Umeki. Umeki 3-0ing Nickname to claim the World Championship title did not exactly save it. Though Umeki would be ranked top 50 worldwide at the end of the year, he was one of the most volatile players in the ranking, with some of the most non-top 100 losses of any player on the list. But Umeki had to wait only 20 days until his next major, Seibugeki 15, where after making a strong run to 7th place, he'd transfer the unofficial title to the best Samus in Japan and a top 20 player worldwide, Yaura. And Yaura's next upcoming major was Port Priority 8 in the USA. Longtime viewers of this channel know that in the lead-up to Port Priority 8, I predicted that Yaura would have a spectacular run and make a number of upsets. The only problematic player in his winner's side path was MVD. As it turns out, Yaura lost to MVD, and ironically it was Umeki who made upset after upset and tore through the bracket to a 5th place finish. Yaura, on the other hand, would defeat Canadian Lucario main Armadillo in losers, before bowing out at 33rd to the best Mario player worldwide, Kurama. However, for this story, my ill-fated predictions aren't important. What's important is that after nearly 19 months abroad, the unofficial World Championship title has finally returned to North America. As it turns out, Kurama's next major was Ultimate Fighting Arena 2023 in France. Though Kurama was seeded well going into the event, he had to be careful. He'd lost to 2 Europeans, Siski and Quick, at his last French event the previous May. And while Japan was full of strong hidden bosses who barely attended majors, Europe just barely had majors to begin with. UFA was only the 3rd major the continent would see in the entirety of 2023. Things seemed troublesome when Kurama lost in winners' quarters once again to Siski. If the unofficial title were lost in Europe, less than a month since NA had won it back, it may be irretrievable for another year. But in losers' top 8 qualifiers, Kurama wound up face-to-face with MK Big Boss, a top-level Rob player from Mexico. In a tense Game 5 set, Big Boss secured the victory, and in doing so, ensured the belt would remain in North America. And that brings us through the end of 2023. Though things were looking dire for about a year, through an unlikely series of events, the unofficial World Championship title was able to remain in play through its long sojourn in Japan, and eventually make its way overseas once more. Again and again, the championship has been put at risk of hitting a dead end, like the first loss variant had more than 3 years back. But time and time again, a strange quirk of fate had allowed it to survive and continue highlighting weird and wonderful facets of this bizarre and very beautiful game. Now in the hands of a borderline top 50 player, MK Big Boss would lead the way into a new year of potential twists and turns in the title's ever-unfolding history. Going into the first major of the year, Luminosity Makes Big Moves 2024, MK Big Boss was abruptly upset in pools by Robin Main Synergy. Hey, you know what? It happens. You get matchup checked sometimes, it's fine. Big Boss is a seasoned player and more than skilled enough to make a long losers run. He starts by beating Virginia Aegis Main Save to make losers side top 128, and then fells a Florida Joker Arsenic in the next round. Big Boss only has one opponent left in order to place top 64. And this would also be the last opponent he'd play in bracket. MK Big Boss exited LMBM 2024 at 65th place, and the unofficial World Championship title was bequeathed to the artist formerly known as Kirby Kid, King K. Rool main Lukewarm. I need to give some context here. As a low-tier main, a prominent Wi-Fi player in Coinbox, and a talented young player, Lukewarm has always had a bit of a disproportionate community spotlight compared to his tournament attendance. This might surprise you, as it surprised me, but LMBM 2024 was in fact the first major Lukewarm had attended since Rise and Grind 2022, about 16 months prior. Throughout 2023, his only attendance outside his home state of Louisiana was a small December regional in Oklahoma. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone's priorities and circumstances are different, and it's not fair to expect young players to travel all the time. But I still feel the need to give some perspective on how well and stuck the unofficial championship may now be. The next most likely prospective major that Lukewarm might attend is Rise and Grind 2024, which is set to conclude on August 18th. The 2 longest periods a single player has held the world champion title are Zachary's 398-day reign during quarantine, and Nickname's 154-day wait from Kagurabi 10 to Kagurabi 11. If Lukewarm holds onto the title until Rise and Grind, he will have held it for 224 days, leapfrogging nickname as the single longest title holder not to possess the belt during a global crisis. As of the release date of this video, we are 102 days into the King's rule, and he doesn't seem to have plans to relinquish the throne anytime soon. Hey, thanks for watching. If you made it to the end, please consider liking the video and subscribing to help support my work. I'm trying to release a video like this every week in April, so don't miss out. My name has been SDG, and I'll see you later.